is the Rangers Journal Night.
Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the Rangers Journal podcast. I'm your host Scott Mackay. Last time you seen me I was doing a bouncy on a post-match reaction after the Celtic match, so I do apologise for that. I'm glad to be back going. Decided to try something different with the Koppen report. We're going to go through some left backs tonight. Should Jeff Day get sold or Ridvan get sold in the summer? Here at Rangers Journal we're going to provide some alternatives, so get in the comments below, let us know what you think. Smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. Tonight I'm joined by Mitch. How are you, mate?
All the better for seeing you, mate. You know, as you say, this is a slightly new format, a new two-man booth for it. And any comments, any feedbacks, any suggestions, leave them in the comments and let us know if we've done a good job, a hyphen job, or anything in between.
I think we know how this is going to go, but it'll be a laugh. Right, so the first player we've got up on the list is Roman Vega. He's 21. He's 5'8". He's a left back. He's Argentinian. I think it's the Premier League of the Argentinian league he plays in. Plays for Argentinos Juniors. Transfer market value of $2.5 million. He's out of contract at the end of next season. Go through a couple of his stats before I come to Mitch. He's had 22 appearances this season. 1,835 minutes played, an average rating of 7.9, a passing accuracy of 78%, and a long ball accuracy of 45%. Heat maps there on the right hand side. What do you think?
I think he's a cracking player, and he's a player with a lot of pedigree as well, given that he is a little bit more, he is probably one of the most expensive on the list that we've got, but sometimes with that pedigree you need to pay a premium for that pedigree. He's came through the Barcelona academy before he returned back to Argentina with Argentinos Juniors. He's a great consistent performer, which is reflected in his constant over 7 points in his average match rating. And he's a very balanced player, really great defensively. He does need to polish up his forward numbers a little bit, and you can see that between his crossing accuracy and the long ball accuracy there. But he's a player there that if he can start adding to those numbers there, he could use his pace to get forward really well, and he has every chance that he can to make something happen there. Defensively, he's strong and solid in the tackle, and he wins his duels very comfortably as well. And he's always looking to make the play go forward as opposed to playing a ball backwards, as we all know we've had our experiences in PTSD of left backs passing backwards. So he's really comfortable both in possession and out of it, and he does try a lot of diagonals, which I think also does skew that long ball accuracy a little bit as well for him. But overall, within his league, there he's one of the most high performing left backs, and at 21. He's got a very big, a very high ceiling there that you'd assume under the right management and a bit of guidance, he could sail on up that ceiling.
Aye, definitely, mate, definitely. Would you have any concerns? Obviously, our side of City signed Bernabei a few years ago, and that didn't really work out. I don't know what Bernabei had numbers-wise, but would you have any kind of concerns about Rangers shopping in the Argentinian market?
I don't think so, because I think it's not a league too dissimilar to our league. It's quite a physical league. Albeit it's not got as many hammer throwers in it than what we have in our league, but I think the physicality is quite on a par, if not maybe slightly more physical out there. And I will say, with that pedigree that he's got coming through the Barca ranks as well, we know that he's came from good stock. So you don't make it through that Barcelona academy if you've not got a bit about you. And I think it speaks volumes that he opted to go back to Argentina rather than just plump himself somewhere else across Europe, which, let's be honest, many a player have left La Masia and done that, plumped themselves somewhere, and before you know it, you hear about the great what might have been, 10 years later. So I think league quality is probably on a par with where we are, and within that league as well, there's some big fixtures as well that, in terms of getting your head around crowd expectation. Argentinian football's a bit mental that way, as we all know.
Aye. Oh, definitely, mate, definitely. Right, just to finish off on his stats, ground duels won 58%, tackles won 59%, chances created 1.08 per 90, recoveries 4.9 per 90, interceptions 1 per 90, and clearances 2.0 per 90. So it's a kind of mixed bag in it, defensively and going forward. One chance created a match. Maybe it's not a ball dominant team he's in, So I don't think we can really hit him with a shitty stick here, if that makes any sense. Good recoveries, decent enough ground duels won. So I don't think I'd be too disappointed if he was to rock up at Ibrox. Would you be?
I don't think so. And I think as well, his stats aren't also too dissimilar to Yefty's before he joined either in terms of,
Aye.
he wasn't perfect at crossing. And he arguably still isn't perfect at crossing. But I will say that he's probably technically better than Yefty. Probably got as well maybe a bit more street smart about him in terms of if you're in a high profile game that you want your left back just to do the defensive side of it. He's got a good pair of legs and a clean pair of heels on him, but if you just want him to focus on the defensive aspects and let others in front of him do all the running there for the attack, that's exactly what you've got, and he can join in as and where he needs to.
Fair enough. Aye. Decent player. Right, let's move on to the next one. Next guy, I'm sorry to any viewers if I butcher any of these names. I'm definitely going to do that tonight. So we've got Toral Bayramov. He's 24 years old. He's 6'1". He's a left back again. He's Azerbaijani. He plays in the Premier League of Azerbaijan. Plays for Karabag FK. His transfer market value is 1.2 million. His contract expires at the 30th of June 2026. Stats wise, he's had 19 appearances, 15 starts, 1,508 minutes played. Average rating of 7.38%, 5 goals and 4 assists. Mitch, I'm going to stop there. What do you think?
I like him, and I actually think he's probably one that fits us. Out of all the left backs, I would say he's one that fits us quite well.
Aye.
I think, if you're looking at which left back's most likely to be sold right now, it probably would be Yefty, given the links that we've already had for him. He fits a very similar profile to him in terms of he's tall, he's athletic, but also he's probably got a better end product than Yefty there as well. The goals return already shows you that. The number of assists shows you that as well. I think being that little bit older and with a bit more experience in the first team, he makes better decisions in that final third, and probably just has that little bit. He's been coached probably slightly better than Yefty has throughout his early career, and I think that's definitely reflected on where he is now. And let's not forget Karabakh as well. They're no a pushover team either.
Good side.
They're a pretty tight team. They're pretty snug, and again they also come with plenty of European experience as well.
They've made an impact in Europe in recent years. I don't think they're as good as Bodo Glimt, but they've had a kind of similar impact, didn't they?
Exactly. They definitely punch above their weight. In that aspect, they really punch above their weight. And you can see their positionally. He has been played at left wing and on right wing on occasion. He's more predominantly a left back than he is on the left wing. Very, very akin probably to how sometimes we have pushed Ridvan into left wing, or on the odd occasion we've pushed Yefty in there. He's got it if he needs it, but he's not necessarily in there very often. It tends to be more of if they push themselves into a midfield five, you tend to see him as that inverted left wing back, whatever we're calling them these days. But it is so nifty going forward, and I think that's something that we've probably lacked a little bit in recent seasons. Is we've always had it going down the right hand side because Tav brings you what Tav brings you. We've seen it for 10 years now. It would be nice to see that level of consistency come from the opposite side, and I think that's something that Bayramov really brings to the table.
Right, we'll fire through a couple of his R stats. So, passing accuracy is 81%, his long ball accuracy is 63%, crossing accuracy is 42%, dribble success of 70%, ground duels won of 41%. Now, that stands out to me a wee bit that he's probably better going forward than what he is at the back. No, am I wrong?
That's probably not unfair. I would say his defensive side still requires a little bit of fine tuning, a bit of polishing. But I think in a league like ours, he could probably get away with that, like to begin with initially. But that's also why we would keep, someone else like probably Ridvan in the team. To say, look, whilst you're still plying your trade there and kind of learning the defensive aspects, Would I rather, if you gave me a penalty shootout and said, would you put Beramov against Celtic, or would you put Ridvan in? I would still put Ridvan in there, and that's only for the defensive side of things.
Right.
But again, Beramov though is also a big tall unit of a guy. Like, where Yefty's 6'1" and lanky, Beramov's 6'1" and quite built for a footballer.
Right.
And I always have to do preface that for a footballer. You're not going to find too many 15-stone footballers, you know what I mean? But, he's not built like a left winger playing rugby or anything like that. But he's got a fair whack about him in terms of the physical aspects. But one of the biggest things that really shines for him as well is his final ball from set pieces and the overall delivery. He's genuinely got one of the most delicious left feet I've ever seen.
Aye, fair enough, mate. Aerial duels won 58%, recoveries 5.1 per 90, which is, I suppose, a blessing in disguise considering we're a ball dominant side. Interceptions 2.8 per 90 and clearances 0.8 per 90. So would this one be a go for you, Mitch? 24-year-old?
I wouldn't mind him. Genuinely, I think he's still got one more good move in him. In terms of, could I see us making some money on him down the road? Absolutely. I think one of the reasons why he's not made a move to a top 5 league as of yet is just genuinely because of the playing in the Azerbaijani league. I think if more teams had more scouts out there, it would probably already been snapped up, even by an English Championship club, or a bottom level or mid-level German or French team.
Aye.
I think given the fact that not many scouts tend to go out to Azerbaijan, unless it is for those European nights, and I think, if you're watching Karabakh versus, say, Barcelona, he's not exactly going to be getting the fairest crack of the whip there to show what he can do.
Aye, fair enough, mate. Let's move on to the next player. So, the next guy we've got is Taiga Hatta. Ortega Hatta. He's 23 years old, he's 5'8", he's left back, he's Japanese. He's in the J1 League in Japan. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that.
Shonal Belmere.
Shonen Belmere or something along them lines. So he's 650k. Contract also expires January next year. 30 appearances, 20 starts, just under 2,000 minutes played, 6.98 average rating, 4 goals, 5 assists. Mitch, heat map indicates he loves running down the left hand side again. It's quite even actually. What do you think?
I think, in fairness, he does that one thing that we've probably lacked for a little while from a left back. He stays on the touchline, and he likes to hug the touchline.
Aye.
How much do I think he would get away with that here is probably a little bit. I've got a wee question mark around that. But he's incredibly attack minded, full of pace. Like, the boy's like a greyhound. He's got some engine on him there. He pulls up and down that and up and down the touchline all game, and he'll get forward with every opportunity that he's got a chance to do that, and he'll take on his man. He's got 4 goals and 5 assists in the last season, but realistically, I do think those numbers should have been a bit higher. But again, we've seen boys come across from Japan and do really well, not just across the city, but in British football in general. And I think the only reservation I have with them, and it's the same reservation I have with a couple of the choices that we've got, has been at 5'8". We've already got one dwarf left back. Do we need another one, that's of average male height before anyone gets upset?
5'8" a wee bit taller than 4' nothing, but Mitch, come on.
Well, either way, they're still biting your ankles. But I genuinely think though, he's probably got the guile, the craft, and the footwork to be okay here. And he's not a lean 5'8". He's again quite sturdy with a little bit about him. In terms of that physicality aspect, he's fairly sturdy in that respect, and he is pretty physical in his duels and his tackles, which again his numbers show.
Fair enough. Next set of stats we've got is passing accuracy 78%, long ball accuracy 44%, chances created 0.91 per 90, tackles won 75%, ground duels won 52%, recoveries though 4.21, which is quite good. It's not quite as good as Beramov, but it's still decent, isn't it?
I think what you need to remember is he's worth half, according to transfer market, he's worth half of what Beramov is. And I think some of that value is probably reflected in the fact that he's in the Japanese leagues as opposed to being in a European league. I think there's still that element of probably European snobbery when it comes to the Asian markets, where they go, if the player's playing out in Asia, they must be horse meat. And actually, there's so much untapped potential out there that, yourself, all it takes is you bring one player in, like Hatta here. You bring him in for £750,000 or whatever the exchange rate is on that is. All it takes is nobody's saying he's going to turn into a £6.5 million left back. But if somebody then started showing interest there and then wanted to come in for him at £2 or £3 million on a player trading model level, that works entirely.
Definitely.
Which that's bringing him in for 4 times what we've paid for him.
Definitely. So just to finish up, interceptions 0.91 and clearances 1.1 per 90. We'll move on to the next guy now, and then we'll kind of, at the end, we'll do a wee kind of who's better out of two of them, who would do rather. So the next guy we've got is Kashif Banyagandi. I hope I've not butchered that name.
Bagnagady.
Bagnagady, aye, that makes sense, aye. That makes sense. 23 years old, 5'8", left back, plays in he's Japanese, plays in the J1 league as well. Plays for FC Tokyo. Transfer market value again is £650,000. Contract's expiry is the exact same at 31st of January next year. He's had 17 starts this season, just under 1,500 minutes played. Average rating of 7.21 and 2 goals and 2 assists. What do you think of him, Mitch? His heat map seems a wee bit more defensive than the other boy.
He is a little bit more defensive, but he's also capable of playing as a wing back, which I think, depending on who our new manager is going to be, whether that be Barry or whether that be, insert manager X, because I think, I think it's one of these ones of we'll know what we know when we need to know when it comes to a management aspect. But if we've got a new manager who likes to play with wing backs, he'd be just as handy as he's probably better suited to a 4 at the back than being at a 3. I think, and I will say Tokyo FC have played about with their system a little bit, throughout the season. They've dipped to a 3, they've dipped to a 4, at one point they dipped out to a 5 as well, which was a bit kind of weird viewing, but it was what it was. He's capable of playing as wing back, and if he can improve the offensive side of his game, especially with closing down, his wingers in front of him, and just, I would say, being a little bit more aggressive in the tackle. He's as much as he's 5'8", he's a sturdy 5'8", and I think if he could be a little bit more clean on the ball is probably the best way I can put it. He would probably find himself in much better positions there for showing off that really good delivery that he's got, which is already shown there, obviously, with the 2 assists and 2 goals that he's got.
Fair enough. Pass accuracy of 76%, cross accuracy of 19%, chances created 1.35 per 90, tackles won 57%, ground duels won 57% as well. Aerial duels won, I think that's 58%. What's your thoughts on him, Mitch? Recoveries 3.32 per 90.
His recovery speed is really, really good.
Right, okay.
Again, he's got a good clean pair of heels on him there, much like Hatta. And I think we all have to be pragmatic when we look at, obviously, the costings for both players.
Yeah.
Yes,
100%.
part of that's the Asian snobbery value, which, let's be honest, every league still holds it. It's the same way that there's a snobbery from English teams of even the best of the best players in Scotland. No English team is going to come up to Scotland and buy a player for £40 million. They would sooner do what they did with, what they've watched with Victor Goikas, going from Coventry to, he went off to Sporting. No English team was willing to pay Coventry the £25 million that they were asking for Goikas, because they looked in their nose and went, that's Coventry, I'm not paying them that. and it's very similar to how English teams view Scottish football. So I think when we're looking at a player that's worth 650k, again, it's a there's a good chance that's a steal. Again, much like Hatta, if he comes in at 650k, it doesn't need to be sold for huge amounts of money in 3-4 years' time for that to be deemed a success. In fact, either one of them could feasibly come into the team at 650k, and either one of them could feasibly be sold for £2.5–3 million within 2 years. And that falls in the exact business model that we're looking for, because that is selling them for 4 times as much as what we've purchased them for. Not every sale has to be a 8, 9, 10 million pound sale, because we have to be pragmatic and think very few players are going to come in and become that Calvin Bassey player that you pick up for a youth development fee of 200k, and then he goes down the road for eye-watering money. Those cases are few and far between. I think probably players like Patterson and Tierney have both kind of learned that lesson a little bit by being down south. Obviously, both moved quite young, and you see that obviously Patterson's not getting a game now currently at Everton. As well as obviously you look at Tierney now, obviously coming back up the road, but well, by all accounts coming back up the road.
Aye.
I think that's one of these where you go, the English clubs maybe went, you know what, we're no quite as willing to go and hawk some good money at you for some of these players anymore.
No, I think that's fair enough. Out of two of them, though, I think I would probably prefer Hatta. What about you? Just because his numbers look a wee bit better, he seems a wee bit more offensive, considering the league we play in and stuff like that.
I actually think, in terms of league suitability, Kashif's probably better suited to the league.
Right, okay.
But Hatta's probably better suited to how we play in Europe. So it's which which side of the pie do you want to go for? Domestically, would I want to see Hatta in the team versus Ross County on game 3 of 3, and a run of 73 games in a week?
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably rather see Kashif in there, because he does have that recovery speed about him, and he's got that bit more, pardon to use the expression, but he's got a bit more of the dug in him. But he's got that a wee bit more aggressive of, if you're playing the likes of Motherwell, or you're playing a team like Hibs that like to get in your face a wee bit, if he loses his man, he's more likely to get back to get his man. And I think Hatta's maybe more likely to get caught being too far up the pitch. And then, unless you've got, don't get me wrong, if we've got Enciala or somebody at the back beside him that's got the pace to kind of help get him out of trouble, that's absolutely fine. But there's only so many times you can do that, obviously, without causing yourself an issue.
They're both very good players. I think it's not like me and you to disagree on something, but is it?
Well, we spend most of the day doing that, mate.
Right, the next one we've got is an Elliot Stroud. He's a 22-year-old, 6'1" left back, so we've got a wee bit of a monster here. He's Swedish. He plays for Alice Fask. How do you say that, Mitch?
He plays in the Swedish league for Mjällby.
Right, fair enough.
I'll help you there, son.
Transfer market value is £1.5 million. 27 starts this season, 29 appearances, just under 2,389 minutes. Average rating of 7.44. 7 goals, 6 assists. Mitch, this boy's a bit of a standout to me. I don't know what you think.
I'm not going to lie, mate. He's my pick of the crop. And he was when we were discussing left backs. I think he's big, athletic, he's pacey, but he's consistent. And I think it's a word that we've used so little when describing this team. The current team. We just need somebody who, instead of being a 9 out of 10 one week and then a 3 out of 10 the next week, I just want somebody that's that I call it like the Vauxhall Corsa at a left back. Solid, dependable. You put the keys in, you know what you're getting every time you jump in it. That's Elliot Stroud, because he's a good, solid purchase. He's not overly expensive, especially for 22. And I think he's a player that he might very well fall into the hegemony He falls into that respect of, if we didn't move for him now, and you wait even just to January, or you wait to next summer, because realistically, they will put one a new contract. They always do, because Swedish clubs and Nordic clubs are really good at protecting their assets that way.
Yeah.
I think he's really creative from the fullback. His strengths that he gets up and down the pitch really, really comfortably. You see that from his recoveries, you see that from his tackles won, you see it from the chances he creates during the game as well. And I think, he's got, as I say, an absolute wonder left foot, and and the way that he possesses that and uses his body throughout the open play is he's it's quite unusual for a big athletic left back to be like that. As I say, he uses his body really well. He positions himself well. He's not afraid to ride a tackle either.
Aye.
He's quite comfortable to let a man come in 2-footed on him. He'll hop him. It's no problem. He will let somebody go shoulder to shoulder with him, and 9 times out of 10, Stroud's going to come back on that. And when you're playing in those Nordic leagues, whether that be the Swedish, whether that be the Norwegian or the Danish leagues, they are physical leagues. And I think that's why you see some of the boys that have come from Nordic teams already, like, some of the boys that are over at Aberdeen. This is why they've taken to the SPFL really well, because they're already used to getting roughed up a wee bit. So when you've got somebody that's 22 years old, he's probably an internationalist in the making. If he takes that next step in his career, he's probably a pretty solid internationalist on his day. Defensively, he could do a little bit more work, but I think, given the way that we tend to play, I think we a good solid centre back partner beside him. Someone that's Balogun-esque, or having a Suter type in beside him at his centre back. It allows him to go and do a little bit more of the offensive work, which the heat map shows. He again sticks to the wing, he sticks to his line, and he brings that natural width. Having somebody that's maybe a bit more of a siege defender in beside him probably suits him a bit better as well.
Aye, it's a fairly good assessment, to be honest with you, Mitch. I think it's out of him and the Azerbaijani boy for me, if I'm being honest. He is a very good defender, but you can tell.
Just go and get me Stroud, mate. Just go and get a checkbook and send me the invoice over. I'll deal with it later.
Aye, I know. Last boy we've got is Andre Borza, 19 years old, 6 foot. He's a left back playing the Romanian. Well, he's in the Romanian league for FC Rap. He's $1.5 million. Probably the youngest player we've got at the crop. He's kid 17 starts, just under 1,600 minutes. Average rating of just say 7.0. 1 goal, 1 assist. What are you thinking?
Do you know, he's an interesting cat, as Borza. He's a really interesting cat. I've got a little bit of inside track on him through family connections. You'll know what I mean by that. Over in Romania, he's very much heralded as the next superstar. And that's a lot of pressure that comes on in young shoulders. But this boy broke into the team at 16-year-old. So imagine the scenes when you let a 16-year-old play. Couldn't have been Scotland. But at 19 years old, he's already got over 100 top flight appearances. He's performed really consistently time and time again. And he's a pretty well balanced fullback as well, who goes forward well, but he also doesn't neglect the job at the back either. Pretty comfortable with the ball at his feet. He likes to play it short or long. Again, he's pretty good dribbler there. He's one of these players. He's tricky to get the ball off his toes. And at 19-year-old, he's probably got one of the biggest ceilings because he has only played in that Romanian league. I think, again, he's another one that he could potentially have a massive, massive ceiling. But given my only concerns about signing him would be, would a team like Rangers, would we hinder his development where he's already been a first team player where he is? And or is somebody going to be brave enough to turn around and say, if you're good enough, you're old enough. And I think that's always my worry when it comes to it, as are we going to pull that plug or what are we going to do?
I know it's a very interesting player with a high ceiling. He's got a decent passing accuracy at 76%. His long ball accuracy is 41. Ground duels 53. But in terms of his stats, you've got to let it slide because he is such a young boy. Aerial duels are 45%. Recoveries 3.7. That's quite high. What's your final thoughts on him, Mitch?
I think as well, he's quite. The Romanian league's pretty solid as well in terms of quality-wise. It's not too far off here either. Like it's very similar to the teams at the top are all the way at the top, but the teams in that middle tier to the bottom tier are quite scrappy. They're quite scrappy, and they'll come at you. And I think for 19-year-old, he's probably a bit more streetwise than than he's given credit for.
Aye, aye. So you pick a bunch of like Stroud, mate?
Oh, hands down, mate. Get me 10 of them. Like that's sign me up to the boy. Like I'm fully on board the fan club with him. Like again, if anybody does get a chance to watch the young man playing football, or even get a chance to jump on YouTube and watch his highlight reels and stuff, absolutely sensational young player. Like honestly, he's the sort of player that I genuinely do think, and it's not a comparable I use lightly. I do think it is a wee bit like Hamza man. Like if we didn't move for him now, very quickly he becomes unaffordable.
Aye,
Even
aye.
with the American billions.
I'd need to agree with that, mate. I'd need to agree with that. But cheers for joining me, Mitch. I think we've done all right. I think that was pretty good.
It's not bad for two middle-aged men, you know what I mean?
Aye, I know. Right, so this will be released on Thursday. This is recorded on Wednesday night. Please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you again soon. Cheers.